Hello, and welcome to another detailed paranormal production. Today, we offer you the paranormal details of the Cheltenham Lady in Black. As always, enjoy the case's local scenery, in this instance, the English Cheltenham countryside. Chapter 1. Details of the Victorian manor with a dark reputation. In April of 1882, Captain Despard moved his family into an imposing Victorian manor in Cheltenham, England. The manor is situated on Pittville Circus Road. At the time, it was known as Donore. It was the type of Victorian manor that suggested strict order, old money, uniformed servants, regulated family life, and British respectability. However, before the Despard family were fully established within the estate, its ominous reputation preceded it. It was empty for years. Villagers believed it to be haunted. But vintage English manors collect rumours the way attics collect dust. A shuttered estate, local gossip, and superstitious Victorian imagination can accomplish a great deal before anyone witnesses anything. Within that stately manor, a young lady began to witness a mysterious phantom woman dressed in black. It would become one of the best-known early haunting cases investigated by the Society for Psychical Research. In fact, it was the very first systematic investigation conducted by the SPR. What makes this case compelling is that it was built around repetition. An enigmatic woman observed inside the manor. Disembodied footsteps heard in empty rooms. A mysterious figure dressed in traditional British mourning garb. Over the years, at least 20 different people witnessed the apparition. The estate on Pittville Circus Road became the centre of one of the most respected historical accounts of a haunting in Cheltenham, first made public in 1892 through a report compiled by the Society for Psychical Research. Chapter 2. Details of Rosina Despard. The main witness was Rosina Clara Despard. She was 19 years old when the phenomena began. In the published report, she used the pseudonym Rose Morton, and her account appeared under the title Record of a Haunted House. Gloucestershire Archives identifies Rosina as the main witness and notes that she later qualified as a doctor of medicine. That detail matters. Rosina was not remembered only as a frightened teenager telling a dramatic story. She became an educated woman of science. As such, her account was treated seriously enough to be preserved and discussed by dedicated investigators specialising in scientific psychical research. The Despard household was an imposing Victorian family estate with servants and visitors. The setting gave the case a wider pool of over 20 witnesses. And yet the true centre of the haunting was Rosina. In June of 1882, a short time after the family moved in, she witnessed something inside the manor. At first, she did not even consider that she had witnessed a spirit. That is one of the strongest details in the entire case. The figure did not appear as mist. It looked like a flesh and blood woman. That is where fear of the unknown begins. Rosina's first problem was not, is this a ghost? Her first problem was, who is this strange woman in our home? Chapter 3. Details of the first sighting of the woman in black. The figure Rosina witnessed was described as a tall English lady dressed in black. Her clothing gave the impression of a gown for mourning, what Victorians often called widow's weeds. Gloucestershire Archives summarises the apparition as a woman in black mourning attire, with part of her face concealed by a handkerchief. That image is simple, but it is powerful. A tall woman, black mourning garb, a concealed face, and the suggestion of grief. That description needs no embellishment. It conveys the mood of the case. The woman was not reported as aggressive. She seemed to move with purpose, as if following a path that still meant something to her. That is what makes the haunting feel different from a simple children's ghostly tale. The woman in black does not behave like a fiend. She behaves like a living memory. She appears within the estate as if she has a right to be there. She moves through rooms and corridors as if repeating something known only to herself. For Rosina, the first sighting opened a question that refused to depart. Was a stranger in the house? Was someone entering unseen? Or was the Despard family sharing Donore with something that had never truly left? Chapter 4. Details of repeated appearances. Over time, the woman in black was seen again and again. That repetition is the backbone of the case. A single sighting can be easily shrugged off. A shadow, a tired mind, a mistake in poor light. However, repeated sightings create added complexity and certainty. The figure was seen in the house numerous times, and accounts connected with the case describe multiple witnesses becoming involved. The SPR-PSI Encyclopedia Summary presents the haunting as a series of repeated appearances, with Rosina making several direct observations and attempts to test what she was observing. Disembodied footsteps were also part of the haunting. That matters visually and narratively, as this was not only a case of people seeing a woman, it was also a case of the manor sounding occupied. The dead, if that is what she was, seemed to have weight. She was not only visible, she was audible. The footsteps gave the haunting a rhythm. Someone walking, someone crossing a passage, someone moving through the house when no one should have been there. And the haunting did not behave conveniently. According to the SPR-PSI Encyclopedia Summary, deliberate attempts to wait for the figure did not succeed. That is a useful detail because it cuts both ways. For believers, it makes the apparition feel independent, as if she came when she wanted to, not when the living demanded it. For skeptics, it makes the case harder to test in a controlled way. Either way, it gives the story honesty. The ghost did not appear on command. The woman in black remained unpredictable. Seen, heard, followed, tested, but never controlled. Chapter 5. Details of Rosina's apparition tests. Rosina not only reported what she witnessed, she attempted to test it. She placed light threads across the path where the figure was expected to pass. If a living person walked through them, the threads should have moved or broken. They did not. She tried to touch the figure. She could not. On one occasion, she managed to corner the apparition, but the figure vanished. The test details are preserved in the SPR-PSI Encyclopedia Summary of the case. A corridor, a line of thread across the path, a young woman waiting. Victorian superstition transformed into Victorian scientific methodology. Then the reiterated question, what exactly was moving through Donore Manor? A flesh and blood person would have disturbed the thread. A hallucination should not have been shared. A ghost exists somewhere between those two dilemmas. Rosina's tests did not solve the mystery. They made the situation even more perplexing. They suggested the apparition had form enough to be viewed, presence enough to be recognized, but not enough physical substance to behave like a living body. And that is where the Cheltenham Phantom becomes more than an eerie ghost story. Chapter 6. Details of the moment of communication. The woman in black was silent. That silence is one of the most haunting parts of the case. She offered no explanation. She did not announce her purpose, she simply appeared. But there was one moment when Rosina tried to break that silence. On January 29, 1884, Rosina boldly spoke directly to the apparition. According to the SPR/PSI Encyclopedia summary, the figure appeared to recognize her but gave no spoken answer. It did, however, give a powerful, stunning gasp, denoting shock. On another occasion, Rosina could tell that the figure wanted to reply, but the words refused to emerge. Is a gasp the closest thing a ghost has to a voice? And honestly, it is quite intense and emotionally powerful. Because, if the ghost were fabricated, the creator would likely cause it to utter a dramatic line. An explanation with a conclusion. Perhaps speech is no longer possible. Maybe a spirit is unable to cross that physical threshold. Chapter 7. Details of the investigation. The case attracted attention from the Society for Psychical Research, often shortened to the SPR. The SPR was founded in 1882, the same year the Despard family moved into the house. Its members investigated claims connected with apparitions, telepathy, hauntings, and survival after death. The Cheltenham Ghost became the earliest case connected to this more organized and scientific approach to paranormal inquiry. Frederick W. H. Myers of the SPR became associated with the investigation of the case. Later summaries note that Myers published Rosina Despard's account under the pseudonym Rose Morton, and that his own investigation involved interviews with residents, locals and former servants. This was serious paranormal investigation. That does not mean every detail must be accepted as supernatural. It means the case entered a serious Victorian attempt to examine unusual experiences with more structure. The woman in black appeared at the time Britain was trying to decide whether ghost stories belonged to folklore or whether some of them deserved investigation. Chapter 8. The identity of the woman in black details. The great temptation with any ghost story is to name the ghost too quickly. The woman in black has often been linked to earlier residents of the manor. One name associated with the case is Imogen Swinhoe, the second wife of the builder of the estate. Imogen actually died in the manor itself, another factor causing one to believe that the spirit was indeed Imogen. However, we do not know for certain who the woman in black was. The mourning clothing suggests grief. Was it grief for her own death? The handkerchief hiding part of her face suggests distress and perhaps embarrassment. Imogen died from complications of poisoning due to her alcoholism. The repeated walking suggests she was searching for something or someone, but those are interpretations, not proof. Chapter 9. Details of the skeptical explanation. A serious, detailed paranormal video needs the skeptical angle, and this case has one. In 1958, G.W. Lambert, who was connected with the Society for Psychical Research, suggested a natural explanation involving underground water and local environmental conditions. The idea was that changes connected with water, structure, or the physical setting of the house may have contributed to sounds, disturbances, or perceptions that fed the haunting. To be fair, water is a known conduit for psychic energy. That does not neatly explain everything. It does give the case balance. Old houses make noise, ground shifts, pipes, water, empty corridors, night sounds, expectation, and local rumours can create a powerful atmosphere. A witness already living in a house said to be haunted may interpret strange events differently from someone with no such expectation. That is the skeptical side. But the case also has repeated observations, detailed descriptions, and even attempts by Rosina to test what she had witnessed. That is the other side. And this is where the Cheltenham Ghost stays interesting and perplexing. It refuses to become simple. It is not easy to dismiss as one frightened person in a peculiar moment. It is also not possible to prove, beyond all doubt, that a dead woman walked through the halls of Donore. Chapter 10. Details of relevance of the case. The Cheltenham Ghost remains relevant because it belongs to that early period when ghost stories were being pulled into professional investigation. This was Victorian England, a time fascinated by death, mourning, science, religion, and the possibility that consciousness might survive the body. The woman in black appeared during a time when people were asking dangerous questions. What is a ghost? What is memory? Can the energy of grief attach itself to a structure? Can a person see something that is real but not physical? This case can't answer those questions. The woman in black of Cheltenham remains one of Britain's most intriguing, early investigated, haunting cases. Perhaps we shall never know all of the answers, but we must continue to ask questions. Thank you for visiting Detail Paranormal. Remember to visit Detail Paranormal again for all of the paranormal details.